Hey, what's up guys, DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a branded Buster Blader deck profile. So I'm really excited this for you guys because this is actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Jin. And this deck is an amazing deck with just how well the branded and Buster Blader packages work together in this deck, making some really incredible fields as you guys will definitely see in the test hands. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name description every single video, getting a signed card sent in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron, along with test hands. And definitely give Jen some love down in the comments down below for suggesting such an awesome deck. So let's get straight on into this one. So first off, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Buster Blader. You want to play 2 copies of this card because you're going to be going into your fusion monster using this card. But this card is actually really good in certain matchups because it gains attack points based on the amount of dragon monsters on your opponent's side of the field and the graveyard, which is a really awesome effect. We then play a single copy of Buster Blader the Destruction Swordsman. This is a really good one of in the deck, just basically counting as your 3rd Buster Blader for the build, because this card's name becomes Buster Blader while in the field or in the graveyard. And if a monster your opponent controls is destroyed by battle or by card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can target one of those destroyed monsters and equip it to this card. And then once per turn, you can send a monster card that you control that was equipped to this card to the graveyard, and then destroy all monster opponent controls with the same type as that monster sent to the grave, which is a really powerful effect. We then play 3 copies of Buster Whelp. Buster Whelp is a great normal summon for the deck and part of our 2-card combo that when this card is normal summon, you can add a Destruction Sword card from your deck to your hand, except another copy of this card, which is a really good effect to grab Prologue from the deck because you're going to be able to search one of our super powerful trap cards. We then play a single copy of Dragon Buster Destruction Sword. This card is really good when you equip it to one of your Buster Blader monsters because it has the ability to target a Buster Blader that you control and equip that monster with this card from your hand or field, which is really cool. And then while this card is equipped to a monster, your opponent cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck, which is a really powerful effect to just basically stop your opponent from special summoning any monsters from the extra deck and essentially locking them down, which is a really awesome effect. And while this card is equipped to a monster, you can special summon this equipped monster back to your side of the field, which is really good because this card is a tuner, which can help you out in certain situations. We then play 2 copies of Aluber Jester of Despia. This card is really good in the deck because when this card is normally special summon, you can add a branded spell or trap from your deck to your hand. And if a face-up fusion monster you control is destroyed by battle or but leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, while this card's in your graveyard, then you can target an effect monster your opponent controls and special summon this card. And if you do, negate the targeted monster's effects until the end of the turn. And you can only use one effect of this card once per turn. This card is incredibly powerful in the deck, but you really only need 2 copies of this card because we're going to usually be normal summoning out the copy of Buster Whelp to our side of the field, and we can get to this card super easy with branded opening, which is why I only play 2 copies of Aluber. You can play 3 copies of it if you want to, but 2 seems to work the best for me. We then play 2 copies of Despian Tragedy. This card is a really good 2-0 for the deck that if this card is sent to the graveyard or banished by a card effect, then you can add a Despian monster from your deck to your hand, except another copy of this card. You can also banish this card from the graveyard and then target a branded spell or trap in the grave and set it back to your field, which is really good to be able to use cards like Branded in Red or Branded Fusion all over again. We then play just a single copy of Dramaturge. Dramaturge is a good 1-of in the deck because if a Fusion, Synchro, Exy, or Link monster is special summoned, except during the damage step, then you can target an effect monster on the field and negate its effects until the end of the turn. And if this card in your hand or field is used as a fusion material and is sent to the graveyard or banished, you can special summon this card back to your field, which is a really powerful effect to give you an additional 3,000 attack point monster that's also a walking negate. We then play 2 copies of Fallen of Albaz, so we can go into cards like Albion and Lubellium to then climb into cards like Mirror Jade with Branded Fusion, but this card is basically a walking super poly, which is really cool. We then play a single copy of the Light Hex Seal Fusion. We're playing this in the deck so we can go into Dragoon later in the game. Dragoon is not the main focus of the deck to be able to go into. You're usually going to be going into Mirror Jade, but it's really nice to have this card as a toolbox card to be able to use with this card being Dark Magician basically when you fusion summon with Albion, and then using the Fallen of Albaz as the Dark monster to be able to go into your copy of Dragoon, which is really cool. Because Fallen of Albaz is actually a Dark Dragon, so he can take the place of Red Eyes, where this card is a fusion substitute monster that can actually count as Dark Magician for the fusion Summoner Dragoon, which is really cool. We then play a single copy of Ecclesia. Ecclesia is a really good one-of in the deck because she has the ability that if a monster is special summoned from the extra deck is on the field, then you can special summon this card from your hand, and if this card is normal or special summoned, then you can activate the effect to add one Dogmatica card from your deck to your hand, except another copy of this card, but you can't special summon monsters for the extra deck for the rest of the turn, which is totally fine because we're going to be grabbing extremely powerful cards like Dogmatica Fleur-de-Lis, the Knighted, or even Dogmatica Punishment. We then play a single copy of Fleur-de-Lis because Fleur-de-Lis is searchable off your copy of your Ecclesia, which is really cool, and it also has the ability that during the main phase, if a monster special from the extra deck is on the field, you can quick effect special summon this card from your hand, and then if you control another Dogmatica monster, which you usually will when you use this effect, you can negate the effects of one face-up monster on the field until the end of the turn. And then when your Dogmatica monster declares an attack, you can make all Dogmatica monsters you currently control gain 500 attack points, which is a really good effect. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Branded in Red because it's actually searchable in the deck, super easy, and it's just a really good card to be able to target a Despia monster or a Fallen of Albaz in the graveyard and add it to your hand, and then you get to fusion summon a level 8 or higher fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials listed on it from your hand or field, but it can't attack directly this turn. This card is a really good card because it is super searchable in the deck and really easy to get to. We then play two copies of Nadir because Nadir is at 2 and it searches out our Dogmatica cards, but this card is a really good 2-of in the deck because you send a monster from your extra deck to the graveyard and then add a Dogmatica monster or a Fallen of Albaz from your deck or graveyard to your hand that has attack less than or equal to the monster sent from the extra deck to the graveyard. Also, for the rest of your next card results, you can't special summon from the extra deck, which is not that big of a deal for this deck. We then play 3 copies of Branded Opening. Branded Opening is absolutely crazy in the deck. It lets you discard a card and then special summon a Despia monster from your deck to your side of the field in defense position or add it to your hand, which is a really good effect to be able to just get your copies of Aluber to your side of the field so you can search Branded Fusion, which is just absolutely insane. It's just really, really cool. It also has the ability of a fusion monsters you control would be destroyed by card effect, then you can manage this card from your graveyard instead, giving you a little bit of protection for your monsters. We then play 3 copies of Branded Fusion. Branded Fusion is absolutely insane because it lets us fusion summon a fusion monster that mentions Fallen of Albaz as a material from our extra deck using 2 monsters from our hand, deck, or field as fusion materials, but you can't special summon monsters from the extra deck except for fusion monsters the turn you activate this card, which is totally fine because with cards like Prologue, we're going to be able to flip those during the opponent's turn so we can go into Buster Dragon, which is super, super easy to do in this deck, which you guys will definitely see during the test hand. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. This deck is actually very trap heavy. So for the traps, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Trap Trick. Trap Trick is really, really good in the deck to be able to get to the exact cards that you need. With this card and your copies of Buster Whelp, you're basically playing 9 copies of Prologue of the Destruction Swordman, which is really, really good to be able to get to that card super fast. But this card has the ability to banish a normal trap card from your deck except a copy of Trap Trick, and then you set 1 card with the same exact name to your side of the field. So we're going to be playing a lot of 2-of trap cards in this deck, so you can banish 1 and set 1 to your side of the field. We then play 2 copies of Branded Banishment. This card is insanely powerful and has the ability that you get to target a Despia monster or a level 8 or higher fusion monster in your graveyard and special summon it. Then you can basically super poly out another fusion monster because you can fusion summon a level 8 or higher fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials listed on it from either player's field, which is absolutely insane to be able to go into all sorts of really powerful monsters. We then play 2 copies of Dogmatica Punishment. Dogmatica Punishment is a really good card in the deck because it lets you target a face-up monster opponent controls and send a monster with equal or higher attack from your extra deck to the graveyard, and if you do, destroy that monster. And until the end of the next turn, after this card resolves, you can't special summon from the extra deck, but this card is a really good card because it's searchable off cards like Ecclesia, so it's very easy to put on your side of the field and out a bunch of different monsters, and even get a double pop when you send cards like Elder Entity Nist to the graveyard, or if you send Titaniclad, you can get searches, which is really nice. We then play 2 copies of Destruction Sword Flash. Destruction Sword Flash is a really good 2 in the deck, because if you control a fusion monster that lists a Buster Blader as material, you can banish all monsters that your opponent controls, which is an absolutely insane effect to be able to just get rid of every single monster that's on your opponent's side of the field. And it's just a super powerful effect, so you can go in for an OTK. This card also has the ability that when a card or effect is activated that targets a Buster Blader monsters you control, except during the damage step, you can banish this card from the graveyard and negate the effect, and if you destroy that card, giving you a little bit of protection with this card as well. We then play 2 copies of Destruction Sword Memories. Destruction Sword Memories is a card that you're always going to want to get into the graveyard, because it has the ability to discard a Destruction Sword card to special summon out a Buster Blader monster from the deck, which is a pretty good effect to be able to activate if you set this card to your side of the field, but you're never going to use that effect. The effect that you're going to use on this card is to banish this card from your graveyard and fusion summon a Buster Blader, the Dragon Destroyer Swordsman, from your extract by banishing the fusion materials from your graveyard, which is super easy to do in this deck, because with cards like your Branded Fusion, you're already going to set up your graveyard with multiple dragons to be able to go in for your copy of your Buster Blader fusion monster. We then play 3 copies of Prologue of the Destruction Swordsman. This card is absolutely insane in the deck, and one of the most important cards in the entire deck that you're going to want to get to, which is why we're playing 3 copies of Trap Trick and 3 copies of your Buster Whelp, is because you're trying to get to this card as soon as possible, and get to your copies of Branded Fusion as soon as possible, because that is the 2 card combo in the deck. What this card does is you send a Destruction Sword card and a Buster Blader from your deck to the graveyard, except another copy of this card, and then you special summon a Buster Dragon from your extra deck or graveyard, but destroy it during the end phase of the next turn. You can banish this card from your graveyard in this turn. Destruction Sword cards that you control cannot be destroyed by battle or card effect, and you can only activate 1 effect of this card per turn. This card is absolutely insane in the deck to be able to get out a Buster Dragon on your side of the field, along with your copy of your Destruction Sword cards going to the graveyard, and a Buster Blader to go to the graveyard to summon it out to your field, so you can turn everything into a dragon, and then banish your copies of Memory plus the fusion materials to summon out the Destruction Swordsman to be able to basically one-sided skill drain your opponent, which is absolutely insane. So that's it for the traps, guys, and the main deck. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing a single copy of Mirror Jade. You really only need a single copy of Mirror Jade to be able to summon the deck, but this card is absolutely insane to play in the deck because it can basically banish cards by just sending something from the extra deck to the graveyard, and it's just a really powerful fusion monster to summon in this deck. We're then playing a single copy of Lubellion, so we can go into our copy of Mirror Jade super easy in the deck by just putting the materials back into the deck by using this card's effect, which is really, really good. We then play 2 copies of Albion. Albion is a really good card because it's basically like a walking miracle fusion for the deck that you can banish the materials from the graveyard, which is always what we're going to do with this card to be able to summon a fusion monster from the extra deck. But this card also has the ability, if it's sent to the graveyard because it was sent there this turn during the end phase, then you can add to your hand or set a branded spell or trap card directly from the deck, which is a really good effect to be able to get cards like Branded in Red or Branded Banishment on your side of the field. We then play a single copy of Titaniclad. Titaniclad is just really good in the deck because it also has that search effect during the end phase, so this card is a really good one of in the deck. Play a single copy of Abyss Dragon. This card is basically like a Chimera tech of the deck because it has the ability, it cannot be fusion summoned or it cannot be used as fusion material. It must either be fusion summoned or special summoned by sending the above cards from any monster zone to the graveyard, which is really cool because you can use a Fallen Volbaz plus any number of dragon monsters. So if your opponent's playing dragons, or you basically make your copy of Buster Dragon, everything turns into a dragon. So you essentially just normal summon out a copy of Fallen Volbaz and then get rid of every single monster on your opponent's side of the field, making this card, which is really, really cool. This card also has the ability, this card can attack monsters a number of times each battle phase up to the number of materials used to summon this card, and then once returned during the end phase, if this card's in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, you can add a Polymerization normal spell or a Fusion normal spell from your deck to your hand. We then play a single copy of Masquerade because it does burn damage and it's super easy to summon in the deck. 1 copy of Red Eyes Dark Dragoon because it's super easy to summon in the deck. You don't summon it all that often in this build, but it is a really good card to give you a walking negate. 1 copy of Elder Entity Nist. Elder Entity Nist is really good to send to the graveyard off of Dogmatic Punishment to give you an additional pop off that card, which is really, really nice. We then play 2 copies of Buster Blader, the Dragon Destroyer Swordsman. This card is absolutely insane. Super easy to summon because it just takes a Buster Blader plus any dragon monster to fusion summon in this card, and has the ability it must be fusion summoned and cannot be special summoned by other ways. This card cannot attack directly, and this card gains 1,000 attack and defense points for each dragon monster that your opponent controls or in their graveyard. And you change all dragon type monsters that your opponent controls to defense position, and also dragon monsters in your opponent's possession cannot activate their effects. And if this card attacks a defense position monster, it inflicts piercing damage to the opponent. This card is absolutely insane, especially if you combo it with your copy of Buster Dragon that turns every single monster on your opponent's side of the field into a dragon monster, which is just really, really good, because if everyone has a full field of monsters, you can basically just one-sided skill drain them with these two cards, which is really, really cool. This card also has a really neat effect that once returned during your opponent's turn, you can target a Buster Blader monster you control and equip it with a Destruction Sword monster from your graveyard to it, which is a quick effect, which is super nice to be able to equip your copy of the Destruction Sword to your copy of your Buster Blader fusion monster so your opponent can't special summon from the extra deck. We're then playing a single copy of Protector Whelp. Protector Whelp is a good one-of in the deck to be able to get your Destruction Sword card to the graveyard, so this card is a good one-of in the deck. And finally, a single copy of Linkuriboh, because we do play a couple of level 1s in the deck to be able to link away to summon out Linkuriboh to give you a little bit of battle protection. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really, really awesome deck. It was amazing to be able to build this deck with Jin, but it's just super, super fun to be able to play this deck. If you guys have never played Buster Blader Branded, I highly recommend it. There will be test stands on the channel of this deck, so if you guys want to check those out, you definitely should, because they are awesome. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.